a story that's true, I'm told, of Arabian nights in the days of old. Isn't that sickening? It's about Alabama, a very poor man who suddenly got rich and his troubles began. Oh, for heaven's sake. Once upon a time, there was a city in Persia called Yacha Yacha Hakim Dakam Abba Boo 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 Boo, which in Persian meant, I didn't say you were a blockhead, I just said, put on your turban, Charlie, here comes a flock of woodpeckers. Persia was a land of Persian melons, Persian cats, and snake charmers, which is very charming if you're a snake. It was a land where the snake charmers played Russian roulette. How do snake charmers play Russian roulette? One of the cobras is death. In this land of Persia lived two brothers named Ali Baba and Qasim. They used to call each other all the time. These were the first Persian-to-Persian calls. Their father was a bag salesman. They used to call him Old Baghdad. Ali Baba married a very poor girl and settled down. Qasim married a very rich girl and settled up. Yes, Ali Baba was very, very poor. He eked out a meager living by painting pickles yellow and selling them for bananas. He had such bad luck, if it was raining cats and dogs, he'd get a skunk. He was even once in the marble business, but he lost all his marbles. Whenever Ali Baba wanted to think, he went to the mountains, because the mountains were all he thought about when he wanted to think. When he thought about the mountains, he was at his peak. So while he was peeking at the mountains, he heard horses in the distance. Yes, he saw a bunch of thieves loaded down with silver and gold and all kinds of goodies, so he hid behind a tree that looked like a mink coat. It was a fir tree. As the thieves approached the mountain, Ali could see that they were all riding backwards. Well, I guess that was because it made the horses nervous to have somebody looking over their shoulders. He recognized the leader of the bandits because he used to be a tailor before he became a robber, so they all called him Robber Taylor. The chief of the thieves called out to the mountain, "Open sesame! Open sesame!" What else can you say to a mountain? And sure enough, the mountain was opened by Irving Sesame, the famous mountain opener. The thieves rode in, left their ill-gotten gains in the big cave, and after the mountain was closed by Myron Sesame, a brother of Irving, and a famous mountain closer in his own right, they rode off into the desert. Oops, must have hit a sand dune. When the thieves were out of sight, Ali Baba walked up to the mountain and yelled, "Open sesame!" And sure enough, Irving Sesame, again hearing the magic word, opened the mountain. Ali Baba walked in, and lo and behold, everywhere he looked he saw jewels, furs, and gorgeous fabrics. He said to himself, "Gee, I didn't know Saks Fifth Avenue had a place here." Then he loaded up his mule with as many of the treasures as he could carry, and he took them home. His wife asked, "Where'd you get the stuff?" And Ali replied, "I just used my charger plate." But she was very upset because he didn't get any green stamps. When Ali's brother Qasim heard about the fortune his brother found, he figured he would do the same bit. So he went to the mountain. He yelled, "Open sesame!" and walked into the glittering cave. However, the mountain slammed shut behind him. Qasim loaded down 47 donkeys with all the loot they could carry, and wanting to open the cave, he called out, "Open pumpernickel! Open whole wheat! Open rye!" But he just couldn't think of sesame, so he was stuck. While he was knocking his head against the wall, trying to get it into the shape he wanted, the 40 thieves came back and found him there. Needless to say, they were not too choked up about this discovery, so they drew their swords and cut Qasim up into little pieces. The 40 thieves now knew that besides themselves, only Ali Baba knew where the magic cave was, so they decided to murder him, which was pretty drastic, as we all know that murder can be fatal. The chief thief, whose real name was Ivan Ofelich, disguised himself by putting on a clean shirt and knocked on Ali Baba's door. "Ivan calling." When the door was opened by Ali Baba's wife, the chief said, "Allah be with you, Allah be with you, Allah be with you, apple blossom time." Thinking he was one of the Andrews sisters, she invited him in to have dinner with Babba. This time, Babba didn't recognize the thief, so they sat down together for a sumptuous feast. What a tongue-tempting menu. Crab-apple soup with real crabs and real apples floating around in it. Broiled brisket of baboon gizzard with gorilla gravy. Yum, yum. Python pie with monkey marmalade and whipped caterpillar juice and other nauseating tidbits. Luckily, Babba had hired a dancer named Morgana to dance for his guest. She was a chewing gum dancer, wriggly all over. When she danced, she would shiver and shake like the license plate on an old used car. Morgana recognized the thief chief and excused herself by saying she ate something that didn't agree with her and she couldn't do her belly dance on a sour stomach. She rushed out into the garden where there were 40 huge jars. Each one contained one of the 40 thieves. She poured scalding safflower oil into each of the jars, and although they were boiled and oiled, their doctor was happy to report that they were polyunsaturated. Then Morgana ran back into the house, grabbed a saber, cut off the thief's head, and threw it in his face. When Babba found out that Morgana had saved his life, he said to her, "Nothing I do would be good enough for you, so I will be good enough to do nothing for you." She was tired of being a belly dancer, so she turned in her belly button and quit dancing. However, she wanted to keep a hand in the business, so she opened a small stand and sold navel oranges. Then she met Babba's nephew, Allie Katz, and they moved to Arizona where they run a dude ranch for old belly dancers called Stomach Acres. You see, kiddies, the moral of the story is, as the wise men palled to the finer folk, out to facing Mecca through the frine, never shall be the salmon, for they said, and as the camels rode to the Templeton, never, and the sun shone on the many souths, to the people of the promising point, never again, said Ned. Makes you think, doesn't it? Two flies were talking, and one fly says to the other, "How's the baby?" And the other fly says, "Terrible. Had to walk the ceiling with him all night." Two fleas were talking, and one flea says to the other, "I got almost enough money saved up to buy my own dog." Two elephants were talking, and one says to the other, "I don't care what they say, I just can't remember a thing." Two kangaroos were talking, and one says to the other, "Don't you hate it when it's raining and the kids have to play in?"